Greetings, Augies worldwide, and welcome to this issue of Ask Dave. And we're going to talk about licensing issues and legal issues in this episode. I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, your host of Ask Dave, and I have with me Trevor Ullman, who is our Ask Dave editor this summer. He is a third-year film student at BYU, enjoying basically everything behind the camera. So we're giving him a chance to get on camera here and work with the questions. The questions actually go to him. He sorts through them, pulls a bunch together by subject, and we address them in this format. So, Trevor, what do you have for us today?
All right. Michael asks about the legality of FRS and GMRS, and he also wants a recommendation for a mid-priced handheld.
Let me address the last question first. Handhelds are highly personal. If you are looking at a mid-priced handheld, try looking at the Retevis Islands HD1 or the Radioddity GD77 or something like that, because they have DMR, and I'm assuming that you have either a DMR hotspot or you have a DMR repeater in your local area. It's amazing. You can talk not only to the local people like you would in an ordinary repeater, but there are groups where they link repeaters together worldwide based on the group. So if you're talking on one channel like TAC 310, you're talking all over the United States at the same time. And you can, lots of things you can do with that. I'm going to be doing a video on that pretty soon. Okay, is it illegal to use the Baofeng UV5R handheld radios for FRS and GMRS? That is an interesting question. It's been asked by many people. I have not heard a good answer. In theory, there was something called FCC type acceptance, and it was type accepted for each particular radio service on which it was used. But under Part 90 certification, these radios can be certified for a much broader set of commercial frequencies, which in the case of the UV5R also include the amateur radio bands on 2 meters and 440, which are right in the middle of the bands that it covers. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I really don't think you're going to run into huge amounts of trouble. The UV5R puts out 5 watts, which is more than is allowed on FRS. So a mid-priced handheld that will do all of those 2 radios I just mentioned will do just the things I talked about. The UV5R will do them also. I don't have good answers on this. Sometimes on Tom Medlin's show, Riley Hollingsworth comes on, and I'll have to ask him these questions about the legality. It seems to me to be a terrible gray area right now, and the Chinese are happily pumping as many of those Part 90 certified radios into the United States as they can. If you want Part 97 certification for ham radio, that's a different story, which the Japanese radios abide by. It's a changing world. I think we're going to watch it change.
All right, Lynn, call sign VE3LRM, has a question regarding ID regulations on a Canadian QSO with the U.S.
He goes on to say that the Canadian ID is every 30 minutes as opposed to the United States every 10 minutes. So if a Canadian station has a QSO with a U.S. station, which ID regulations do they follow? The answer is they follow their own. So the Canadian ham follows his 30-minute, and the U.S. ham follows the FCC 10-minute. Now, I would give my personal opinion that I think both of those intervals are a little bit long. And you should identify at any point where there might be any sort of confusion. I would point out also to DX stations that the common practice of simply listening for people calling you and then coming back to them and identifying your own station once every 10 or 15 QSOs is a very frustrating practice for those of us on this end who are trying to figure out, we've got this great band conditions, but we don't know who it is that's on DX. Please identify much, much more frequently. One of the problems I've run into is I'm listening to a great station. I have several opportunities to talk to it, but by the time they do identify, the band has faded. So I've had that happen to me a number of times. A number of other times I do something a little bit more straightforward. I say, this is KE0OG, and when they come back to me, I say, could you please repeat your call sign? I'm not sure I got it all. Well, in fact, I got none of it, but that fits the definition of not all. So do identify. There are people listening who may want to talk to you or may just be prospective hams or somebody like that. And we try to be courteous to everybody, not just the person that we're talking to. That got me on my soapbox on that one. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
All right. Marcin, call sign SQ5SUM. He's planning a visit from Poland to the U.S., and he has a question about how he can operate ham in the U.S.
Well, the answer is that he can. There is a licensing agreements between various countries. Go to IARU.org. That's IARU.org. That's the International Amateur Radio Union.org. And at that site, they handle all these questions like that, and they can tell you in a heartbeat. Or you can call them at the ARRL League headquarters, and they will tell you the answer there too. Or just email to somebody at the ARRL or at the IARU. So look at the website first. They may have the information right there, and then you can find out how to do the reciprocal operating permit, if you even need a permit. I suspect you're going to be able to come in, use your call sign with a you would say /W followed by the call sign zone you're in. So if you're in New England, for example, it'd be /W1. If you're out here in Colorado, it'd be /W0.
All right. Benny, call sign W4BMJ, has a question about tech privileges, whether or not that grants him general privileges as well.
Passing the tech granted general privileges. Oh, under certain circumstances. Let's suppose that you had a general license and you let it lapse and the grace period expired, and now it's 20 years later and you want to get back into ham radio. All you have to do is pass the technician exam. Okay, and that covers your basic operating procedures and some safety questions and things like that, which the FCC wants you to reaffirm. And then once you have passed that, you will have your general privileges reinstated. Not created from scratch, but reinstated. Now there's one other little wrinkle with the tech. If you were a tech before, I think it's 1985, back when the tech test was not the tech test, but it was actually the general test, you can go in and just do a paper upgrade. As long as you've kept your license current, you can do a paper upgrade to general. So there are a couple little things. Normally, of course, you have to pass the tech before you can pass the general test. They go in order and they are cumulative. So just passing the general, VE shouldn't allow you to do that. You would have to pass the tech, then pass the general, then pass the extra. Some people do that all in one sitting. I don't recommend that. I recommend you go as far as general and then get on the air, get a couple years experience, and then that extra class license will mean a lot more for you.
All right. Call sign KT5YVE, Caitlin, has a question about changes on the general license test, whether or not there'll be any changes beyond new questions.
We just had, well, we're actually kind of in the middle of the general license. The extra test expired last year, and they came up with a new test where they introduced more material about software-defined radio, and the new extra videos that I have online reflect all of that. The general videos that I have online right now are actually out of date for this current book. I'm going to update them, I think, next year when they come out with the new general. Now, the big thing that's changing right now is the tech. The tech expires June 30th, and on July 1st there's a new set. I am trying to get the new tech manual from the League, and the problem is I ordered the 4th edition. They sent me the 3rd edition. So when I get the 4th edition, I'm going to refresh all the tech videos for the new things. Now, as far as the general license, you've got enough time to go on the current general book that you shouldn't have to worry about upcoming changes. Do take a look at the videos that I have online. I've heard from most people that they're still quite relevant.
This one related to the previous question is from Pierre, and he's asking about if he passes his technician, if he can reinstate his general class privileges.
Returning to amateur radio after a 25-year hiatus, I'm assuming you let your license lapse. If that happened and you passed the technician test, your general class privileges will be reinstated, not advanced class, which is a shame. I don't know why the FCC rules that way, but they do. So there is no more advanced class. Now, if you kept that license current all that time, then just get back on the air. Now, if you just passed your technician, the VE should have been able to answer that should give you general class privileges after you get your new call sign. Okay? Good.
All right. Robert is asking about buying a general class introduction CD and where it is that you do that.
I don't. I have a DVD that has the tech videos on it, the current ones, but I'm discontinuing that because I'm going to make all new tech videos. I do have the extra class license videos on a thumb drive, but I do not have the general class on a thumb drive or on a DVD for a variety of reasons. Mostly because they are out of date and it's a little bit more complicated than the tech stuff. So one day I will, the next time I update all the generals, I do plan to introduce the thumb drive for that. But it's going to be a while, a year or so, before the general manual is updated.
All right, Arnold, call sign KJ4YCA, has a question about the new extra test questions and what those are going to be.
Well, the manual's already out. If you'd like to know which are the new questions, the only way that I knew to do that is to go through and do a comparison. I have not seen a list such as you mentioned. I looked for it when I did the updated extra class videos and did not find anything. So you're just going to have to sit down and do a comparison. You can see which ones have been eliminated, which ones have been changed, and which ones are completely new. Most of the new material is about software-defined radios. There's really not much different from that. I was surprised how little change there was when I did the new videos. All right, this brings us to the end of this Ask Dave. If you would like to ask an Ask Dave question, these all go to Trevor, who collates them and pulls them together so we can do videos like this. The email address is hamradioanswers@gmail.com, or you can go to dcasler.com/ask-dave and pose your question there. They go to the same place. The advantage of the direct email is you can include a picture or two or something like that. I would urge you to keep your questions short and to the point so that poor Trevor here can understand what's going on. I was giving him a little bit of ribbing in an earlier video about getting his ham license too, so we'll see where that comes down the line. be curious what his call is. Probably TRE for Trevor. See what happens there. Please also look up dcastler.com/support. It talks about ways that you can support the channel. The tip jar is there. Patreon is there. Also, there are some really cool links to things on Amazon that you might already be interested in buying. If you buy it using that link, I get a finder's fee. Also, there is a link there where you can get the amateur extra videos, the current ones, on a memory stick so you can study them without having to go online, which a lot of people find handy. So, in fact, I was quite surprised. I've gone through something like 90 of them so far. It's quite interesting how much of a response that there was to that. It was generated because there was a fellow in New York who spent a lot of time on the subway where he had very poor connectivity, and he wanted to watch them on his laptop. I thought, well, that sounds perfectly reasonable to me. The videos are free on YouTube, of course, under the standard YouTube license. And so I put these videos on a memory stick, and the charge is for the memory stick itself, plus the handling and the shipping, because there's free shipping on those to anywhere in the United States. And I don't think they would do you much good outside the United States, so because every country has a different set of exams. All right, well, until the next time we meet, 73.